So the UFC 312 main event between Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis has wrapped up, and it was a pretty awful fight. Let's not even sugarcoat it. It wasn't really that great. It was a pretty ugly fight. Very good performance by Dricus Du Plessis. Sean Strickland just didn't show up for this fight. Like he just had no answer for anything. Like Dricus was just kicking him up, hitting him to the body, going up top a lot. The kicks were good. The kicks were money for Dricus. And like I said, the reason I was picking Dricus and I was so confident in Dricus is because Sean Strickland's style is so easy to figure out. First time it's going to be hard, but if you rematch him, he doesn't really change anything. It's just going to be the same stuff. It's going to be the same style. But in this fight, he was just backing up the whole time. He wasn't even pushing the pace. Didn't really throw much. His output was low. You got to think that staph infection probably had something to do with it. That's the only thing I can think, unless the pressure just really broke Strickland early here. But good performance by Dricus. 5-0 in my scorecard. I thought he won every single round. The fourth round was the round where Strickland landed the most, but he also got his nose busted up badly. It got broken, and then he was getting teed off on. Very close to a finish. At least the closest in the fight. So that's another Dricus round there. And yeah, people say he doesn't have good cardio, but Strickland has good cardio, but he got broken a little bit by Dricus, and lesser men probably would have quit. But yeah, Dricus Du Plessis wins. Ooh, let's get that out of the way. Dricus Du Plessis, great performance by him. Yeah, he looked really good. He fought a really good fight, smart fight. Not the most entertaining, but I don't think it was his fault. You got to blame Strickland on these sorts of things. He's very defensively sound, so you don't really see big shot after big shot. Landed on Strickland because he's got very good defense. So, respect to him. He was defensively sound, but yeah, not a great fight. I'm very, very excited for Dricus Du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. You got the South African versus the Chechen wrestling versus South African plot armor. It'll be interesting. I think Dricus will find a way to win that somehow. He just always does. You can't pick against this guy. He always finds a way to win. But yeah, great cardio as well. He showed that if he fights at a bit of a slower pace, he doesn't really gas. But even if he does gas, he is always willing to just keep going because he's got heart for days. But yeah, then we had the co-main event, Weili Zhang versus Tatiana Suarez. Great performance by Weili Zhang. First round, I arguably thought she could have won that first round. I know Tatiana got a takedown and everything, but she did no damage. And then Weili Zhang reversed her, landed some big shots. Felt like she did more damage on top, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because Weili Zhang did end up winning the next 4 rounds, so it was never in doubt who the winner was. But in my scorecard, I would have put that 50-45, but I could see why people would have given it to Suarez in the first round. But great performance by Weili Zhang. You got to do Weili Zhang versus Valentina Shevchenko, or the winner of Valentina Shevchenko versus Manuel Fiorot, because none of these strawweights really can do anything to her, especially with Rose at 125 as well now. But yeah, great performance. She looked very good, very explosive, was getting the takedowns, was controlling Tatiana, who's the Olympic wrestler. So it was very impressive. I think she was an Olympian, I think she went for the Olympics, but she couldn't. But she was still a very credentialed wrestler, but not good enough to beat Weili Zhang, who's just a beast. Is super athletic, crazy athleticism. That was one of the main reasons I picked her, was the athleticism. But anyway, then we had the feature fight, was Talien Teixeira. I probably butchered his name, I don't have it off the top of my head, versus Justin Tuffer. Very easy, quick victory there. Justin Tuffer gets absolutely banged up on the nose with a brutal elbow. I've seen a lot of people saying he quit, but it's heavyweight. I feel like it's not going to be nice to take a flush elbow right to the nose that I believe broke his nose. That's obviously not going to be nice. I don't think he quit. I think it was just a big 120 kg Brazilian man who just landed a flush elbow on him. It's obviously going to hurt him, especially because he's a big guy with long arms, so that, he can really pull them elbows back real far. But regardless, He gets a win, short fight. Didn't really get to see much out of Justin Tuffer. Then we had Jimmy Crute versus Bellato. I was regretting picking Bellato. The whole time I had picked him, I was regretting it. Especially in that first round, Jimmy Crute gets a clear 10-8. He's battering him up, putting a beating on him. Drops him, is on the ground with him, ground and pounding him, almost gets submissions on him. But then gasses. But I still think he could have won like the second or third rounds. Like, he was landing the bigger shots, clear bigger shots. Like, all Bellato was doing was throwing calf kicks, which, yeah, they're damaging, but Jimmy Crute was actually hurting him and knocking his head back quite a bit. But they decided that he won the last 2 rounds for some reason. I don't hate a draw. I just think it was either a draw or Jimmy Crute wins 29-27. There's no other way he could have scored that fight. But yeah, shame for Jimmy Crute. He gets another draw. He's now got 2 draws in his last 3 fights. That's a crazy stat. I don't think there's any UFC fighters with a record like that. But yeah, shame he didn't get the win. But he looked improved in ways. I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, cut him, he didn't look improved." But I thought he did. I thought his striking looked a bit more cleaner. Obviously, he's still not like an amazing striker, but he did look a bit cleaner. He wasn't falling over his feet as much. He did gas out, which I didn't like to see, but his striking looked a bit improved, but he still is a grappler. He's always got to remember that. But I thought he looked a lot better than he did his last couple fights, but he still, goes to a draw. Jake Matthews versus Prado. Great performance by Jake Matthews. Like, that was a very, very solid performance. He battered him. He just beat the shit out of him. 30-27, great performance. A lot of people were picking Prado for some reason, but like, he lost to Jamie Malarkey. Like, Malarkey's like not as good as Jake Matthews. I know MMA math doesn't work, but you gotta like look at the level of Australian. Like, Malarkey's a bit of a herky-jerky type of guy who can wrestle every now and then, but not as durable. And Jake Matthews is like an athletic specimen. I feel like it's the best way to put him. Former AFL player, good grappling, good boxing, veteran, still very young himself, only 30, 31, so, still a young dude, but great performance. His boxing looks very clean. His cardio looks really good as well. Like, we've seen Jake Matthews, gas out in a few fights, but he seems like his cardio is really on point now. He's coming off 2 good wins, Phil Rowe and Prado. I was in a live with the MMA Guru and Oben Elliott, and Oben Elliott was talking that he got offered this fight against Jake Matthews in Sydney. I'd like to see that fight. That'd be a cool fight to book, to be honest with you guys, but we'll see what happens with that one. But yeah, great performance by Jake Matthews. He caught out Neil Magny, actually. Honestly, I'd like to see that Neil Magny fight. I think Jake Matthews would win that fight at this point. But yeah, he looked good. His boxing has improved heavily. Like, I know he had that great performance against Andre Fialho, where, he looked amazing in that fight. But his boxing's still pretty good. He had that bad fight against Semmelsberger, and then he also lost to Michael Morales. But the Morales fight was actually pretty competitive, 29-28. A few adjustments, could have got that win. So, he's a veteran, but he's looking better. He's actually improving, and he is still only 30 years of age. I'm not saying he'll be champion or even ranked, but I'll pick him to beat a lot of these like unranked guys, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, then we had my boy Jack Jenkins versus Gabriel Santos. This was a fucking sad one because Jack Jenkins looked really good in that first round. Knocked him down with a head kick. I thought he was about to knock him out. That was a really good flush head kick. Knocked him down, was beating him up. Almost gets caught in a triangle and then an armbar, but he escapes it, pulls off his Volkanovski and slash JDM moment. Volk had that moment against Brian Ortega. JDM had that moment against Ramazan Ameev and Ange Lusa. And he survived and then goes on to win. But, unluckily, Jack didn't win. But I thought he won the first round. Second round, he was winning. And then he shot. Then he gets reversed. And then Gabriel Santos gets on top of him and, starts landing some good ground and pound. Then the third round, gets hit with a flush up kick, I think it was. Gets rocked. Then subbed, which is a shame to see, but yeah, I feel like he made some bad fight IQ errors. I feel like he was really beating up Gabriel Santos on the feet. I don't know why he felt the need to wrestle. I don't like his wrestling. Like, I don't like Jack Jenkins' grappling in these fights. I think he's such a good striker. Why would you mix it up like that? Especially against a guy who almost subbed you. Like, that just baffles me that he did that. Maybe he was gassing. I'm not sure, but I thought that was a pretty, bad fight IQ error from Jack Jenkins. Like, I felt like that fight was almost in the bag. Like, he could have probably let Santos up in the first round and maybe battered him a little bit there. But, again, arguing over spilt milk, spoiled milk. I feel bad for Jenkins. He'll be back, but yeah, he really needs to work on his get-ups, because once he gets taken down in a lot of these fights, he just doesn't get back up, and I don't like that. His initial takedown defense can be good, but you really need to work on your get-ups. Like, that is why I'm a believer in Jack Della Maddalena, is because he has his initial takedown defense isn't the greatest, but he has very good get-ups. So that's why I'm a believer in him when it comes to that. But I don't like that Jenkins is, once he's down, it seems like he's like a fish out of water, just doesn't get back up. I don't like that. Like, I really don't. I haven't liked it in a lot of his fights. Even against Herbert Burns, he showed that willingness to just lay there. Against Jamal Emmers, that is a big key part of his game. He needs to settle, working on his get-ups. Not just takedown defense. Get-ups are more important, in my opinion, especially at this level. But because most people will get taken down, but you need an ability to get back to your feet. I say this because I'm a big fan of Jenkins. Interviewed him. There was a whole story, the Benny P story, everything like that. So I'm not saying this because, I think I would do better or anything like that. I'm just saying, what he could work on. But regardless, I've spent too much time on this. He'll be back. Good performance by Gabriel Santos. He should have beat Lerone Murphy. So, this is a pretty skilled guy. He could go on to be something pretty special. He's got 2 wins in a row. He was beating on David Onama. Maybe his chin's a bit sus. But outside of that, he's a pretty good fighter. Then moving on up, we had Tom Big Train Nolan versus Borshev Slava Claus. I was very happy with this performance because I wasn't doing very good for picks, guys. I'm just going to be honest with you. So I was like, oh no, I picked Tom Nolan, but he delivered. He had an amazing performance, the best of his career against his best opponent, which I like to see. Seems like he's improved. He was a lot more composed. Didn't get hurt in this fight too against his most dangerous opponent. We've seen him get hurt against Motta, seen him get hurt against Victor Martinez, but in this fight he looked very good. He mixed up his grappling, which was very good. I like to see that. He jumped up top, almost got a submission by jumping the back, landed some good elbows that seemed to hurt Slava because he sort of folded a little bit, and that's how Nolan got his back. But I thought it was 30-27 as well. Some of the judges gave it 29-28, but I think the damage that Nolan did on the ground with the elbows was more than anything Slava did in the third round. So I was very impressed with his performance. Very good cardio. He's just always in your face. And also just to outstrike Slava Claus is very impressive because, people can say Slava Claus, he gets taken down, his takedown defense isn't that good, and yada yada, what people are going to say. But he is a legitimate striker. He does have legit striking. And for Tom Nolan to pretty much win that fight on the feet, have very good moments on the feet, is pretty impressive. People hate on him because he lost to Nicholas Motta, but I honestly think most times out of 10 he is going to beat Motta. He just fought very reckless in that. I think if he can stay more composed like he was for this fight, I do think he can actually be a problem for a lot of these guys. His chin looked good in this fight. I think it's more just his recklessness. And he said that in the Martinez fight, he didn't get knocked out. He's knocked down. He said it was a slip. So I'll take his word for it. He did say that in our interview. But yeah, great performance by Tom Nolan. Looked very good. Very improved. Took a couple months off after that last fight, which I like. He also got, he's got 3 wins now. 3 wins, that's pretty good. I'd like to see him still fight, lower ranked guys for a little bit. Let's not jump him up too high. He's still a young guy. Only 24 years of age. I think he's 25 this year. I think he's still 24 though. So still a young guy, still has some improvements he can make, but very impressive stuff. Then we had Wong Kang or Tong Wang. I forget how to pronounce her name, but Kong Wang. I'll just say it because that's how it's spelled. But I think it's Tong. I think it's pronounced Tong. I know it looks like Kong, but it's pronounced Tong apparently. Versus Bruna Brazil. Wang just battered her. The Joker won. The Joker beats Batman. That's all I'm going to say about that fight. Now moving on up, we had Colby Thickness versus Alexandre Costa. This was a tough one to swallow. I picked Colby Thickness in this fight. I'm not going to lie. I thought he would be able to break Topuria a little bit because we didn't know how good this guy is. And I reckon Colby gave a good account of himself. It was 30-27 on all the judges' scorecards, but personally I think it was 29-28. I think Colby won the second round, but Again, he clearly lost. Like, I'm not saying that, he should have won that fight or anything like that. Like, I'm not delusional. I think Topuria won, but I thought that Colby did enough to at least win the second, but the judges disagreed. But Topuria, he's good. Let's just say that. He is good. Great takedown defense. Again, Colby, this is the thing about Colby, though. I've said I didn't think he was ready for the UFC. The only reason I picked him in this fight was because I didn't think Topuria was a legitimate prospect because he's only beaten Cans. But, so I really still don't know how good Topuria is, because Colby is good, but he's not ready for the UFC. He's still pretty green, and I think that was pretty obvious. That was pretty evident in this fight. I think he had a one-fight contract, so we'll see if he fights here again, or if he's in the regionals his next fight. Who knows? Because he can make a lot of improvements. I think he can be very good. Got good kicking game. He's striking good. He didn't get knocked out, which is good. Still durable. Took some big shots. His body kick was money. He was landing a lot of good body kicks on Topuria, but the takedowns was honestly the worst part of his game, which is crazy because he is a grappler, but that was actually what was screwing him over. Every time he'd shoot, Topuria would just be too strong, couldn't do anything. Topuria suplexed him as well. Very strong, has a Greco-Roman background. His boxing's good, but he's not as technical or as slick as Topuria. I say Topuria, they're both Topurias. As Ilya, like, obviously, I know there was all this stuff. Oh, he's even better than I am. He's, all this stuff. I don't agree with that. I never would have. It is crazy to say because, Ilya obviously has beat Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, two of the greatest fighters of all time, knocking out both of them. So, I thought that was obviously going to be a stretch. But he did look very good. He still got power. I don't know how powerful he is. But, I'm glad we have some more prospects in this division. We'll see who Alec fights next. I don't think they'll rebook the Cody Haddon fight next, because I think Cody Haddon will probably get something booked soon, but I'd love to see that fight eventually, but maybe not next. Let's build these guys up a little bit. I think Alec and Cody can meet, somewhere further down the line. I still think Cody would have beat him. I'm more confident in that after watching this fight. Because Cody, in my opinion, is a much better prospect than Colby. He's a much better striker, great takedown defense, durable, much better, fights at a high pace. Like, I think he would eventually break down a Topuria. But yeah, great performance by Topuria regardless. I'd like to see if there's more in Gafarov. That fight was apparently, like, there was talks of that fight being in Abu Dhabi on the Max Holloway versus Ilya card. So I'd like to see that fight booked. Honestly, Gafarov versus Topuria. Mun Gafarov just beat a good prospect in Nakamura, so let's just book it. Let's book it. I reckon that'd be a good fight. We'll see if he can derail another hype train, or if Topuria can go in there and showcase another great performance. But yeah, good performance by Alexandre Topuria. People were acting like this guy was a complete world beater, like, straight away. I think he's good, but I think the hype train hopefully died. It calms down a little bit. He's good, but he's not Ilya. And that's what I've been saying. But I did pick Colby, so yeah, I was wrong with that pick. But good performance by Alec. Then we had, I think it was Rong Zhu versus Cody Steele, which is this was a crazy fight, to be honest with you guys. Crazy performance by Rong Zhu. Rong Zhu, what a man. The 24-year-old veteran, yeah, that's a crazy statement. Yes, it was. It was Zhu Rong versus Cody Steele. Yeah, crazy performance by the Chinese fighter. He looked very good jab, was piecing him up. Cody Steele he had no answer. He just threw wild shots, but he wasn't technical. He didn't really go for his grappling too much. This guy is technically a grappler who has power, but he just got pieced up. Rong Zhu is a weird fighter to predict fights on, because I thought he'd beat Chris Padilla, but then he loses to Chris Padilla, like, quite easily. But then he gets this, up-and-coming, like, prospect and just destroys him, even though he is clearly the younger guy. Like, Rong Zhu is the younger guy, but still, Rong Zhu, the veteran, at 24, has an insane amount of experience, both in the UFC and out. But yeah, great performances, a crazy fight, back and forth fight, big shot after big shot, but it was mostly just Cody Steele showcasing a granite chin, but because he was getting battered most of the fight. Then we had Jonathan Mikhailov versus Kevin Doucette. I regretted this pick as soon as I made it on my predictions. I was like, maybe Giuseppe won't win this fight. Giuseppe, he is beatable, and I don't know why I didn't pick Mikhailov. I felt like an idiot afterwards, to be honest with you guys. Like, as soon as I made my prediction, I wanted to make another video saying, I'm changing my pick, but I didn't. I stuck with my guns, and Kevin Giuseppe lost, and he got dominated the first 2 rounds. Jonathan Mikhailov is always improving rapidly. This guy's trained in Thailand. I think he trained with some pretty famous Thai Muay Thai fighter or coach or something like that. I remember seeing that on his Instagram a while ago. So, because we didn't really see any of his striking his last 2 fights after he lost to Alden Bates. So his striking probably leveled up crazy, but he just didn't use it because he showed off his grappling a lot more. But very good fighter. He is very good. I was watching a lot of predictions yesterday, and people were like, oh, Kevin Giuseppe's like a level above him, and, all this stuff, and he's one-dimensional. He didn't look very one-dimensional there. Good body kicks, head kicks, dropped Kevin Giuseppe. Kevin Giuseppe's got a granite chin. To drop him is pretty impressive. He was landing some big shots. He needs to work on his boxing fundamentals, but his kicking game's very good, landing a lot of good kicks. Didn't even need to showcase his grappling, which is his main part of his game, and he's apparently a one-dimensional fighter, but like I said, didn't look very one-dimensional, looked very good. I think it was 29-28. 3rd round was close though, but it seemed like he slowed down a little bit, but I think Jono Mikhailov can beat a lot of these guys, and he's very young. He can improve. He's massive for this weight class. Big guy, long arms, and won a pure striking fight against Kevin Giuseppe, which is very impressive in my opinion. Kevin Giuseppe's a good striker. I remember what he did to Son Kanan. Son Kanan's not a bad fighter by any means. He did get knocked out by Muslim Solikov, didn't he, in his last fight? But still, he's still a good fighter. Dropped Ian Gary. And Kevin Giuseppe destroyed him. He also destroyed Kiefer Crosby, who's not the greatest guy, but Kevin Giuseppe's a legit fighter. He won the 1st round against Brian Battle as well, I'm pretty sure. Looked pretty good in that fight before he got chinned and broken. But Mikhailov just put it on him the whole time, so I was very impressed with that performance. Should have picked him. I didn't. I feel like an idiot because I was honestly thinking about it, he might win. And Kevin Giuseppe's now lost to 3 Aussies. Crazy. French guy. Probably moved to that scene. He's probably thinking, oh, these guys will be a lot easier. The Australian scene's not good. But he's lost to 3 Aussies. So crazy. Thinking about it that way. But yeah, great performance by Jonathan Mikhailov. Young, improving, willingness to learn. I think he could actually be something. And then we had the first fight, which was my boy Quillan Sauerkield versus Anshul Jubli. It was a back and forth war, like we all expected. I was looking at all the comments. Oh, he shouldn't be a 570 favorite and all this stuff. He shouldn't be this much of a favorite. He barely won on Contender Series. Firstly, bullshit. He clearly won on Contender Series. That was against a very good prospect in Gage Young, and everyone's like, you barely won on Contender Series. No, he clearly won. He barely won a 29-28 decision. One of the judges gave it 30-27. I can understand why. He landed a lot of big shots, looked very good with the grappling. He clearly won that fight. I don't know why there was some people saying he lost that or if it was competitive. It was competitive, but Gage Young is a very good fighter. And I've seen people saying Anshul Jubli's beat guys with better records and all this stuff, and maybe better records on paper, but Domar Fan is a much better fighter than any single person Anshul Jubli's ever fought, including Mike Breeden. And Quillan Sauerkield beat him twice. Then Quillan Sauerkield knocked out Blake Donnelly in 22 seconds. And I said this, I swear, I don't know if I said it in my prediction, but I said it to my mate. Quillan Sauerkield could just go out there and immediately knock out Anshul Jubli, because he did this to Blake Donnelly. Blake Donnelly is a very good amateur boxer, very good boxer in the MMA scene, who had boxing match against Conor Benn back in the day, Conor Benn Jr. back in the day. I don't even know if he is a junior, but Conor Benn. And he's a legitimate boxer, and Quillan Sauerkield went out there and knocked him out in 20 seconds. And then, he just went out there and immediately knocked out Anshul Jubli. Now, people complaining about the stoppage, I understand it when you look at it, but the whole reason Anshul Jubli got a hold of his leg is because he stopped hitting him because the referee pushed him off. He dropped him like a sack of potatoes. That was a clear knockout. He was limp when he got knocked down. I think when he hit his head, it woke him back up. if the referee didn't push him off, Quillen would have just landed big shot after big shot and put him back out cold again. He can complain about it. It looks better for him, I guess. Because he can say, oh, I wasn't out. I was still ready to go. I'm a warrior and all this stuff. But I think he was put out. But yeah, great performance by Quillen Salco. All 17 seconds of it. Yeah, he dominated. It was never in doubt. I knew that Quillen Salco was going to win this. I wrote in articles about it. This isn't going to be competitive. Quillen Salco is better in every way. He's a bigger fighter. He's more athletic. He's more powerful. Like, you know, there's always the people who are going to see like a massive underdog and say, "Oh, I'm gonna hammer that Anshul Jubilee money line." Don't be a fucking idiot. Just don't be stupid. For God's sake, he got knocked out by Mike Breeden. Quillen Salco's a very good prospect. He's a younger fighter. He's improving rapidly. Trains with Cody Hatton. Trains at a good gym. And, like, this guy learns quick. He's only been training for, I think, 7 years. And he's already in the UFC, beating guys, looking very good, beating guys like Gage Young, guys who have trained their whole life. Like, he's obviously a natural talent. Very good fighter, very long for the division. And didn't take any damage, so he'll probably be back pretty quick. He can recover really quickly, get back into things. Like, he's a very good fighter. I don't know why there were people, like, saying, oh, he barely won on Contender Series. Like, no, he clearly won, and he was obviously going to destroy Anshul Jubilee. Anyone who picked Anshul Jubilee, who was an Indian, is a fucking idiot. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm sorry, I know. You know, I'm a big fan of Quillen. I've interviewed him a couple times. Maybe my bias is coming out. But I feel like if you picked Anshul Jubilee, you are fucking dumb. That's the nicest way I can put it. Because I just don't see what you guys were seeing. What way was he going to win? He wasn't going to go out there and maul him on the ground. He wasn't going to win a striking fight. Like, it was just, this was the worst matchup you could give. Like, Anshul Jubilee, I don't think is, like, completely terrible. Like, I think he does have good fundamentals and he can actually win fights, but like, Quillen Salco was always going to win this fight. Like, this is just an amazing matchup for him. And I think he's a legit guy. Like, I think Anshul Jubilee can beat some guys if he doesn't gas. Like, he does have good fundamentals. If he, instead of keeps going forward in the third round when he's gassed, if he just, you know, laid back a little bit, he could probably win some decisions. Like, he does have good boxing fundamentals, but Quillen Salco just has better boxing fundamentals. It is much better fighter. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This was actually a pretty good card. It exceeded all expectations. And yeah, we'll see where all these guys go. It was pretty good for the Aussies. I think they went 4-3. I believe. Who won? Nolan won. Salkild won. Matthews won. Mikhailov won. Yeah, that's 4. And then we had Jimmy Crute go to a draw. Then Jenkins and Colby Thickness lost. So yeah, you know, not too bad when you think about it. Jimmy Crute could have arguably won as well. So, you know, Aussie came, got some underdog wins as well. So yeah, good on the Aussies. Good performances. And yeah, it was overall a pretty good card. But Strickland, what the fuck was your game plan? Like, seriously, I still don't know what his game plan was there. But anyway, I feel like I've gone on for a very long tangent there, and most of it was about Anshul Jubilee and Quillen Salco. But yeah, that's all I got to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. I think Dricus Du Plessis could become the middleweight GOAT because he's got plot armor. He'll just beat all these guys somehow in ways that don't make sense. But this fight, he didn't even need any of his funky plot armor. He just won by being a better striker. Winning a decision on the feet against Sean Strickland is impressive, considering this guy is the guy who went out there and dominated Israel Adesanya purely on the feet. So great performance by Dricus, never in doubt. Could have done better for predictions, I'm not gonna lie, but you know, it is what it is. I feel like next week, you know, we'll hopefully get some better predictions, but hopefully I'm not the worst. You know, I had really good last 2 cards, so it was bound to happen. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, put on notifications, put on that bell, and I'll see you guys next time. Like I said, goodbye.